The exercise files for today's course are located in the video description below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Hi everyone, my name is Trish Connor-Cato. This course is for any user who has prior Tableau experience. With so many competing technologies, Tableau has emerged as a powerful favorite in the world of business intelligence solutions. This course will take your Tableau skills to the next level by teaching you best practices along with the most sought-after dashboard designs. You're about to embark upon an intense but amusing journey that will provide you with an arsenal of innovative techniques. Your new tool set will help you reuse your current Tableau worksheets and to create new ones for the purpose of including those worksheets on dashboards that you will be proud to share. Users will enjoy interacting with your dashboards for the purpose of getting deep analytical information from them, and they will be impressed with their flexibility. Most important, the class will overview various business scenarios that translate into different types of dashboards, and you will leave with that understanding. By the end of the course, you should be able to create effective dashboards on your own, and you will also walk away with class files that help you get a head start. In each module, we'll work with a specific data set and build visualizations to be used on our dashboards. We'll be starting in Module 1 by working with a personal finance data set. Using this data set, you will learn how to use the Tableau data interpreter before learning about floating versus tiled windows. We'll also cover item hierarchy and horizontal and vertical containers in this module. In Module 2, we'll work with a Tableau built-in data set containing Superstore basic sales information. During this module, we'll learn about graphic sizing, filters, formatting labels, and dual-axis visualizations.
Looking to support our channel and get a great deal? Become a member today to unlock ad-free videos. That's right, your favorite courses without a single ad. Interested in a specific video? Purchase one of our ad-free courses individually. Looking for even more? Gain access to exams, certificates, and exclusive content at LearnitAnytime.com. More information can be found in the video description below.
In our first module, we'll be working with a personal finance dashboard. There are 8 zipped folders in the files in the video description, and you should pause the video, grab all 8 of those folders, and unzip them onto your local hard drive before beginning the course. Each folder is named for a module. We also have a module that's going to be using a built-in to Tableau dataset. That's why there's only 8 zipped folders. In Module 1, we'll be using the data that's in the Personal Finance folder, and we'll start by using the Tableau data interpreter. You'll learn the difference between floating versus tiled. We'll also learn about item hierarchy and horizontal and vertical containers. Before we dive in and begin using the Tableau data interpreter, let's discuss what it does and what types of files it can work on. So it works with Excel, text, CSV, PDF, and Google Sheets files. Data Interpreter can give you a head start when cleaning your data. It can detect titles, notes, footers, empty cells, and bypass them to identify the actual fields and values in your data set. It can also detect additional tables and subtables so that you can work with a subset of your data independently of the other data. When you clean your data with Data Interpreter, it cleans all the data associated with a connection in the data source. It does not change the underlying data. You can review the results of Data Interpreter in an Excel workbook with a key for the Data Interpreter Legend tab, which you can review to find out how to read results. If Data Interpreter does not provide expected results, you can undo its recommendations and use the original data source. I'm already in Tableau Desktop on the home screen, and we have 2 files that we're going to be using for our personal finance dashboard. One is an Excel file called Personal Transactions, and the other is a CSV file called Budget. Let's start with the Excel file. On the left side, under To a File, I'm going to go ahead and click on Microsoft Excel, and I'm already in my Personal Finance folder, and there's that Personal Transactions file that we're looking for. I'm going to just double click it. So in Data Source View, on the left, you see the connection, and then under Sheets, you'll see the checkbox for Use Data Interpreter. If Tableau has not detected that there could be issues with your data, the data interpreter would not be on the left side. It also wouldn't be there if you are not using the file type that it recognizes. So we are underneath where it says Use Data Interpreter. You'll see that you have your Personal Transactions workbook as well as a table in that workbook. And so just to show you what's in this workbook, I've opened it, and you'll notice there's merged cells in row 1, and it has that personal transaction data header. And then you have your other headers in row 3. And in column G, that column has been put in the form of an Excel table. So that's why it's showing the sheet and the table. They're actually two separate objects. And that's even though the table resides on the sheet. So that's why it looks this way under Sheets. We're going to just check the box that says Use Data Interpreter. And you'll see that it now says Cleaned with Data Interpreter. And underneath that, you have a link that says Review the Results. It also tells you if you're not happy with the changes, go ahead and uncheck the Cleaned with Data Interpreter checkbox. We're going to use the Review the Results link. It opens an Excel workbook, and on the first tab, you have Key for the Data Interpreter, so you'll understand the results. So it lets you know the color coding if something is interpreted as column headers. It lets you know values in your data source, your actual data. That would be color-coded green, so on and so forth. It also has a couple of links here with some helpful tools. So if you have any issues with data interpreter results, there's a Tableau support site that you can go to. And you can also get support from the link at the bottom. We have 3 other sheet tabs in here, the first of which is Personal Transactions. So you'll notice at the top that it unmerged the cells that had the heading Personal Transaction Data centered over them, and it just put that same heading in each of the cells, A1 through G1. In row 3, you'll notice your color coding that lets you know that it's the header row. It was able to detect that as the proper header row. And the rest of it is data. If you notice, included on this, as just a regular column, not a table, is column G, which is in table format in the original file. Also notice there's a blank column, which is column F. Let's go to Personal Transactions Subtables tab. And even though column G was in a table by itself, here it's showing along with the other data that doesn't have any kind of legend on it. And then the last tab is your full data set with the legend keys on it. And that's the clean data. So basically, it got rid of the merged cells and that heading, Personal Transaction Data. It detected the proper headings, and it detected the data. Now, this is usually saved in a Tableau temp folder. And notice it's called marked.personaltransactions. A series of numbers. And it's in my Tableau temp location. What I like to do is I like to save these like in the same folder that I'm working out of, in our case, Personal Finance. So I'm going to go ahead and do a save as on this. and just put it in my personal finance folder. And I'm leaving the same file name. And now I can close this file. So now we can go ahead. We're going to use the cleaned data. So we're not going to make any changes with the data interpreter. What we are going to do is we're going to drag that personal transaction sheet onto the logical layer here. So we can actually see the data here that we brought in from that Excel file. And I'm going to go to the gear in the upper right-hand corner of that data grid, and I'm going to choose Show Hidden Fields. And the reason I did that is so we had that blank column F in the Excel file. So it didn't get rid of it in the clean file, but it hid it automatically when we brought it in here. And I'm going to go back to the gear and uncheck Show Hidden Fields. So now we're ready to add our other file to this mix. So right on the left, to the right of Connections, I'm going to click the Add link. And this is a CSV file. So we're going to use text file for this one. And so I'm already in my personal finance folder, and you can see it's an Excel comma separated values file, and it's budget. So I'm going to double click budget to add that to the mix. And budget doesn't need to be cleaned with the data interpreter. You notice since we brought it in, it's saying you could use the data interpreter, but it's in good shape. We don't need to do that again. What we are going to do, you notice it has budget CSV under files, and we're going to drag budget CSV onto the logical layer. And when we drop it, you'll notice that it automatically created a relationship between the two files. And the relationship is based on the common field category. So we have a category field in personal transactions. And as you see in the data grid now, we also have a category field in the budget file. So it will always show as category and then in parentheses budget.csv so you can know which field is from which source. We're good with the relationship. We don't have to do anything there. It was able to detect the common field automatically. What we would like is to merge the data, so to speak. So in the upper half of this data source screen, we're going to double click on the personal transactions icon. And it just takes us to the physical layer. So it lets you know personal transactions is made of one table. And here we're going to again grab budget from the left under files and drag it and drop it into this layer. And this is where we get a join. So it does an inner join based on, again, that common category field. And we're good with the inner join. If we weren't, we could click on it and change it, but we don't need to do anything there. So when you look at your data grid now, you'll see the first several columns are from personal transactions, and then you get to the two columns that are from budget. And since we already have the category column from personal transactions, the only thing we're going to do is hide the category column from the budget source. We don't need to have category displayed twice. So I'm going to you can right click on the header and choose hide for category budget CSV. So now that we have our data in our Tableau workbook, we're going to go ahead and save this file. I'm going to call it Personal Finance, the name of the module. And what we're going to do next, now that we've saved our workbook, is we're going to start building vises that we will use on the dashboard that we're going to create later in the module. When we get to creating our dashboard, we will also address the 3 other topics that we have in this module. And that would be floating versus tiled, item hierarchy, and horizontal and vertical containers. So now we're going to go to sheet 1, and we can see our fields from budget, and we can also see the fields from personal transactions there. I thought that I hid that category field for budget, so if it's still showing there, you can just right click on it and hide it from here as well. I just want to make sure that we don't have the same field showing twice. Even though it has a slightly different name, it can lead to some confusion. And so the first viz we're going to build is a text table, and we want to see the budget versus variance, basically, is what we're looking to do here. So we're going to drag the budget field to columns, and we're going to drag the amount field also to columns. And then on the right, we're going to use our show me and select the first viz type, which is text table. We want this in a text table. And then you notice, since we used 2 measures for that, it gave us the measure name pill in the rows as well as in filters. And you see your measure values on the left in your marks card. And it placed them in text as well. So we're seeing the amount and the budget in our text table. We want our measure names to be in columns and not rows. So I'm going to just drag and drop it from rows to columns. That's how we're going to want our text table to look. And we want to create a calculation that will give us the variance. So what we're going to do is we're going to just do an ad hoc calculation. It's also known as an inline calculation. We're going to double click in columns to the right of measure names, and it gives us an empty pill that we can type into. And so really simple calculation we're going to use here. So it's going to be, we're going to start typing budget, and when it shows up on the list, you can just tab it in. And then we want the minus sign, and then start typing amount, and I'm going to tab that field in. So budget minus the amount is the difference, the variance. We're going to press enter. So now we have that function, and it did the sum of it. And what I like to do with my inline calculations is name them. So I'm going to drag that sum budget minus amount and drop it in the field list. And from there, it's under measure names. I can go ahead and name it variance. And then I'm going to just press enter, and notice it changes it up here as well. So what I want to do is change this back to a text table. Since we added another dimension, it automatically changed it to, another measure, it automatically changed it to a different type of viz. So now I'm going to drag my measure names back to columns from rows. On the marks card at the bottom where it has measure values, I want to make sure that they're in the right order. So we really want them to be budget, amount, and then variance. So I'm going to just click and hold on amount, drag it down. You'll see that little orangey colored arrow. That's your guideline. And I want it to be underneath budget. So budget, amount, and variance. And notice our text table updated here. Now we want some more context for this text table. So we're going to go ahead and grab the category field and drag it to rows. And so now we're seeing the budget, the amount, and the variance based on each category. So now we're going to do just a little bit of formatting on our table. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to right click on the category label on our table and choose hide field labels for rows. And then we want to format the numbers, the values for budget, amount, and variance. So I'm going to just right click on any number, choose format, and the format pane opens on the left. And I'm going to go to the fields drop down and choose amount. So we want these to be formatted as currency with 2 decimal places, and any negative values to have the currency symbol but be inside of parentheses. So we're going to do the drop down where it says numbers, and we're going to choose currency custom, which you'll see has 2 decimal places, parentheses around negative values. It's using the $ prefix, and it also includes thousand separators. So we have that showing immediately in our table. We're going to go back to fields, select sum budget, and do the same, currency custom. And then go ahead and do the variance field on your own. And your table should look similar to mine. The next thing that we want to do is we want to have that category column have some color in terms of the column background and the text, the font rather. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go to our fields drop down again in the format pane and select category. Right under default where it says shading, I'm going to use like this dark blue color. If it's not showing on your palette, you can go to more colors and grab it from there. Either way, same thing. But then the thing is that it's not on every item, every row in the column, and you can't see the font. So let's go up to the font where it says Tableau Medium 9 point, and we're going to make the font white, but then we can't see the font where it is not shaded. And that's because there's some row banding going on. So we're going to go to the paint bucket to get to shading at the top of the format pane. And notice in your row banding, you have something other than none for both pane and header. We're going to do the drop down and choose none for both of those. And now you'll see that all of the rows in that column have the dark blue with the white font. Since we're here on color, up at the top under default, you're going to go to worksheet drop down, and I'm going to choose like a light gray color. I want a little bit more contrast, something like. And last but not least, we are going to name this sheet, and I'm going to just double click it to name it. We're going to call it Budget versus Variance Table, which also shows up as the title on the worksheet. I can go ahead and close that format pane by using the X in the upper right-hand side of it. And this would be a good time. There's save icon right there on the toolbar. You can Control S, of course, to save our file. So we have one visualization done for our personal finance sheet. Let's go ahead and do the new sheet icon. And we're going to create another visualization. So for this viz, we're going to create a bullet graph that will show the actual values versus budgeted values. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to drag amount to to columns. And we're going to drag budget to columns as well. And we'll use category for our rows. Now we're going to go to our Show Me panel. And we're going to choose the bullet graph. It's the center one on the bottom row. And I'm going to collapse the Show Me pane. We're going to grab category from the field list again, and we're going to drag it to color on the marks card. And we get our color legend on the right. So now a color has been assigned to each category, makes the graph a little bit more useful and visually appealing. Let's go to our format menu, and we're going to choose shading. And under default, let's give that same light gray color to our worksheet. The other thing that we want to do is we want to go up to the toolbar where it says standard in terms of your view. Do the drop down and choose entire view so that the bullet graph fills up the entire view. Now I'm going to close that shading panel on the left, and I resized it. I don't need it to be that wide, just so I get some more working space here. So if you look at this bullet graph, I'm hovering over home improvement, and you'll see that it has a line, a vertical line way toward the left of it. Each of them do. They have these vertical black lines on the bar in the chart. And if you hover over any of those lines, they tell you the average budget amount for that particular category. And if you hover over any of the bars, it tells you the category, the amount, and the budget. So that's your bullet graph. The last thing we need to do with this one is name our sheet, and it's going to be actual versus budget. So before we move on to our third viz, let's go ahead and save and then bring up a new sheet. And now we're going to create an area chart that's going to show spending by month. So we're going to drag the date field to columns. And we're going to change it to month-year format. So I'm going to right-click on its pill, and I'm going to go down to the one that has the month and the year. We're going to also drag amount to rows. And we're going to use show me to change it to the area chart. So you notice you need to have one date for an area chart at the bottom. It's really good about show me is it tells you what you need to be able to use that type of viz. It also needs one or more measures. So we've met that criteria. I'm going to go ahead and click it. So an area chart, I'm going to collapse show me, is really a filled in line chart. We're going to drag the amount field to color on the marks card. So now it gives us this color palette on the right, letting you know what amounts are represented in a range of that from light teal to darker blue. I really want this to be a dark blue, pretty solid color. So what I'm going to do is on that color legend on the right, I'm going to do its drop down arrow and choose edit colors. And where the palette says automatic, I'm going to do the drop down. And you'll see that these are all the palettes that come within Tableau. At the bottom, I'm going to choose custom sequential. It gets me closer to the blue color that I want. And I'm going to choose stepped, reversed. And I'm going to click on that first box, that dark blue box that's by its own. And I'm going to choose a different blue color, more like the royal blue that I used earlier on the table column. And so when I click apply, I can live with this color. It's not really about the formatting here. We're just creating vizes to get to the dashboard, but this will do fine for now. So I've applied and I'm going to click OK. And now in the marks card, I'm going to click on color and I want to make my color 100% opaque. Let's change this to fill up the entire view. Didn't really see much of an adjustment with this one. And then I want to edit the axis a little bit. So I'm going to right click on the axis and edit axis. And I'm talking about the axis at the bottom. Now I believe our data goes from January 1st, 2018 to September 30th, 2019. I'm going to, and this may not be necessary, but it's good for you to know. I'm going to change the range from automatic to fixed. And the fixed start date, I'm going to modify it to January 1st, 2018. And you'll notice as you're doing that, your area chart is kind of sliding back and forth on the screen. I'm going to change the end date to 9/30/2019. And underneath that, I'm going to uncheck show times. At the bottom, I'm going to change the title to just say date instead of month of date. And everything we've done so far has been on the general tab. We're going to go to the tick marks tab at the top. And we're going to change them from automatic, the major ones, from automatic to fixed. Or I changed it to none, to fixed. And we want the interval to be 1 month. And we can go ahead and close that box so we can see January 2018 through September 2019 on our axis. And each of the major tick marks represents a month. Also, if I hover over any point on the area chart, I'll see the tooltip that's giving me the month and the amount. So spending by month. Let's just go to format and give the worksheet that light gray shading that we've been using. And we'll go ahead and name this sheet spending by month. And on this one, we're going to go up to the title and right click and hide the title. Save your file. Hang in there. We have 4 more visualizations to go, although 2 of them will be copying and making minor modifications too. So those will go really easily. This one that we're going to do is we want to show some date level detail of our personal finances. And we're going to use a highlight table for this one. So we're going to start by grabbing the description field and dragging it to rows. And we're going to drag the date field to rows as well. But we want it, instead of the year of the date, we want to choose day. And it's the second day. So you see the month, the day, and the year. And we're going to drag the amount to label on the marks card. Now we're ready to go to show me. And we're going to choose the highlight table, which is the 3rd one in the top row. And we can collapse show me. So we are going to add a filter to make this more readable. And what we're going to do is we're going to drag the date field to the filter shelf. And we want to use a month year filter. So I'm going to select that and choose next. At the top, we're going to choose the use all option button. And we're going to do apply and OK. So now it says my date for month year date. I'm going to right click on that filter and choose show filter. So it shows on the right side. At the top of it, I'm going to do its drop down arrow. And I'm going to make this a single value drop down filter. So they're only allowed to pick 1 month year at a time. And it's in a drop down, so it doesn't take as much space. I'm going to go back to its drop down. And I'm going to choose edit title. And I'm going to just delete that my date text. And I'm going to type in all caps, select month, and click OK. So when they do the drop down, they'll see all the months and the years. and they can select. Let's select September 2019 off of that list. So this is what the highlight table does. It highlights values that are kind of outliers so you can see them. This $1,100 on September 3rd for a mortgage payment is an outlier because of its amount compared to the other values in this highlight table. And if there aren't any outliers, if I go to another month, I'll try April 2018. Well, mortgage payment is going to show up on each. But you'll see over here, well, this is the color coding for the sum of the amount. It has that divergent shading on it. So that is a highlight table. Let's go ahead and go to the format menu. And let's do it like this. Let's right click on a number in our table and go to format. And we want to go to the fields drop down and choose sum amount. And let's give it the custom currency format. I'm going to widen the description column by putting my mouse on the right side so I get that double arrow. So I'm seeing all of the descriptions in their entirety. And I'm going to choose the entire view for this one as well. And I notice I have to do some column cleanup here between my dates. Well, one of the things I can do is I'm going to right click on a date and I'm going to choose rotate label. So the dates are now rotated and they are better viewed that way. Now I'm going to right click on day of date at the top and hide the field labels for the columns. Don't need that. I'll leave the description label for the rows there. And I can go to any date field and put my mouse right underneath it. And I can actually drag that up a little bit. So it's giving me more space in the body of this. Let's go back to the fields drop down on the format pane and choose description. And let's give that dark blue shading and change the font to white. And then I've clicked on the paint bucket over there to get to shading, and I'm going to do the same light gray for the worksheet background. Now this one, we're going to name the sheet Date Level Detail. And we can go ahead and save. Now we want to visualize our expense detail in the form of a horizontal bar chart. So we're going to start by dragging date and amount to rows. And we're going to change date so that it is the month year, so the second month one. We're going to drag description to columns. And we're going to use show me to select the horizontal bars. I'm going to collapse show me. Now, I'm going to go to the analysis menu, although you can use Control-W shortcut key for this. But I'm going to go to the analysis menu, and at the bottom, I'm going to swap the rows and the columns. And we're going to drag date to the filter shelf. We're going to do month year like we did on the previous sheet and do next. We're going to use all and apply and OK. Right click and show that filter. Use its down arrow to change it to a single value drop down. Use its down arrow to edit its title to say select month and then select September 2019. So now we have, because we swapped rows and columns, you'll see that we have vertical bars. If I do Control-W, you'll have your horizontal bars back. And you could do that, depending on how you want to look at it. So I prefer the horizontal bars for this, and I'm going to change it to entire view. And we're going to name this sheet Expense Detail and save. So now we want to copy the expense detail sheet. You could right click on it and choose copy. But what I like to do is I just click and hold on it while holding down my control key, and I drag it until that little down arrow is pointing right next to the right of it, and I let go. So I get expense detail and in parentheses 2. Let's go ahead and double click the sheet tab and name it first, and it's going to be account detail by month. The only thing we have to do here, well, 2 things. Actually, let's go back to expense detail first. Forgot to put our worksheet shading on this one, so I'm just right clicking, formatting, going to the paint bucket and giving that light gray to that worksheet. If we had done that before we copied it, we wouldn't have to do it on this account detail by month sheet. Sorry about that. And so now I have the shading here on account detail by month as well. So I can close that format tab. And for this one, we're going to click on the description pill in the rows shelf and do delete. And we're going to replace it with account name from the fields list. So here we have our account detail by month. We still have that filter here because we copied the sheet. So I can pick a different month and look at my detail change, so on and so forth. And let's make a copy of the account detail by month sheet so we can do our final visualization here. We're going to name this one account overview by month. And we're going to add the description field to rows, so it gives it more granularity. We're seeing the account name and the description. And we want to add account name to the filter shelf. And we will use all and apply. Okay. And then we want to show that filter. Let's make this one a multiple values drop down. So I can uncheck all, everything disappears. I can check checking and silver card, and those 2 accounts show. I'm going to check all again. Go ahead and save your file. We're going to actually give this viz more appeal. Let's grab account name from the field list and drag it and drop it on color on the marks card. So we have some color going here. We get the legend on the right, just to make it more visually appealing. Now I want to show you one other thing. Let's go up to the format menu and hover over workbook theme. So it uses a default theme. You have a choice of a previous theme if you had changed it. Let's click on Classic at the bottom and notice how this changed, right? At the top, you have these extra panes here. This is a classic look. And if you go to the previous sheet, you'll see that all of the sheets in this workbook now have that look. The theme is workbook wide. Let's go back to Format, Workbook Theme, and choose Modern. So Modern doesn't have those extra panels. It makes the font, and this is subjective. To me, it makes the font a little bit more crisp, if that is a thing. And I can look through sheets and see that that theme is applied everywhere. You can go back to Format, Workbook Theme. I'll click on Previous for this one. And this moved my title to the left. I'm going to go back one more time, and I'm going to leave mine on Modern. I like Modern a little bit better. So pick a theme that you can live with. And after you do that, go ahead and save your file again. So now we're getting ready to create 3 personal finance dashboards using the visualizations that we've created. Before we get into that, you're going to be learning about horizontal and vertical containers, as well as about floating tiles and the item hierarchy lessons while we're working on these dashboards. So I thought it would be fair to give you a little bit of information about horizontal and vertical containers before we begin. So these help organize and standardize the size and layout of your dashboard's worksheets. When you're viewing dashboards through different size screens and devices, floating images can often be distorted or misrepresented. Containers allow you to fix locations of dashboard elements regardless of how you are viewing them. Tableau dashboards have horizontal and vertical containers that you can use. Once you've placed objects within containers, you're able to control not only the sizes and characteristics of the individual objects, but the sizes and characteristics of the containers as well. You are also able to put different types of containers within each other on the same dashboard. So now we're ready to create our first dashboard for personal finance. And I'm going to use the new dashboard icon that I'm pointing to on the bottom of my screen. So it gives us dashboard 1. You can see on the left side, you're on the dashboard tab. So it's set to default as opposed to phone. You have your size. I'm going to expand that. And I'm going to change my width because of my screen size. I'm going to change my width to 1500. And this is for your dashboard canvas area. And I'm going to change my height to 1080. And so I'm filling up most of this area. And then I can collapse that size again. And then I see all the sheets from my workbook that we've worked so hard to create, all of these visualizations. When you hover over each sheet, it shows you a little thumbnail of what the visualization looks like. And then on the bottom left, you have objects. This is where you'll find your horizontal and vertical containers. You also have text objects, extensions, ask data, data stories, images, blank, workflow, web page navigation, and download objects that you can use with dashboards. Underneath that, it's defaulting to tiled. And then your other choice there is floating, which you'll see in just a little bit. When we get to our second dashboard, you'll see the difference between tiled and floating. So on the first dashboard, we're going to do this a couple of ways, right? Just so you see the difference. First, we'll do it without using a container, and then we'll do it by using a horizontal container. So we've set our size on the left, and we're going to, you can see the names of your sheets. We're going to click and hold and drag actual versus budget onto the canvas. And so it comes over, its color legend comes over here on the right. If you notice under sheets now, it has a little check mark on that sheet indicating that it is on your dashboard. So now we're going to grab another one, the first one, budget versus variance. And we're going to click and hold and drag that one. Now, as you're dragging it, you'll see shading on top of the other one. If I were to drop it right now, it would be to the left of the actual versus budget one. If I move my mouse over a little bit, it would be on the top and the actual versus budget would be on the bottom. If I move my mouse to the right, it would be on the right side of actual budget versus budget. And if I move it to the bottom, it would be on the bottom. So those are where that's where I can drop it. I'm going to move it to the right and drop it there. So this is without using containers. You can navigate around and figure out where you want to put it, and then you can drop it where you want to put it. Now, I like to redo this with containers. So on that budget versus variance table, what I'd like to do is go over to its right and I'm going to do the X icon, which will remove it from the dashboard. I'm going to select the actual versus budget, do the same thing, and that and its color legend will also disappear. So now we're going to do this using containers. So on the left in our objects list at the top, we're going to click and hold, and we're going to drag a horizontal container and just drop it on the canvas. And you'll see that containers have like a blue border around them, right? They also have where you can remove them from the dashboard and a more options drop down where I can remove the container, distribute the contents evenly for anything that I put in the container, make it floating, add show hide buttons, so on and so forth. I'm going to click away from that and then back onto my container. And now we're going to use the same sheets. We're going to use actual versus budget, click and hold, drag it into the horizontal container, and just notice as I drag it around, right, it wants to drop it on the whole thing. Now, when I first dragged it in, it gave me the option. I'm going to remove it for a moment. It gave me the option. Well, actually, let me put my container back in. I actually removed that. Okay. So now when I first dragged it into the container, if I keep my mouse way to the left, it will allow me to drop it on the left side of the horizontal container. And that's what I'm going to do. It also dropped its legend into the container. And we're going to click on that legend and do its drop down arrow and make it floating. And that way we can move it to where we want it to be. I'm going to use its handle at the top, and I get the four-headed arrow, and I'm going to just drag it over to the right. Kind of put it on the bottom for now. I'll figure out where I want it to go shortly. I have my visualization in a container here. If I double click the actual versus budget handle, it will select the entire container. Now I'm going to grab the budget versus variance table and drag it to the right side of our horizontal container. And it leaves room there at the bottom because, right, this table is not filling the entire view. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the toolbar and I'm going to choose entire view like we've done before. And now it's filling up that space. So this category legend, kind of looking at it, move it around a little bit, right? See, my horizontal container is full. There's not really any place I can put it, it looks like. However, if I go to the right of the budget versus variance table, there's a little bit of white space there. I can drop it there, but notice it's kind of like oddly placed. So now I've gotten rid of it totally. It's like hiding somewhere. And I realized that I don't really need it. I mean, the categories are color coded, but that legend is not really very useful. You can see the color coding right next to the category name in actual versus budget. This dashboard, I think, is pretty complete. We are going to do a couple of more things to it. Let's first of all go down and name the dashboard sheet. We're going to do actual versus budget by category is the name of this one. And if I want to, at the very bottom on the dashboard pane on the left, I can check the box that says show dashboard title. And now the title shows, and just like a worksheet, whatever you name the sheet will show in the title, or you can edit the title separately. So we'll leave it the same there. And go ahead and save your file. Now we're going to add some captions to this dashboard. I'm going to click on the actual versus budget viz on the left, and I'm going to go to the worksheet drop down, or excuse me, the worksheet menu, and choose show caption. So now I'm going to go to entire view and choose standard, and I can see the caption underneath it. Sum of amount for each category. Color shows details about category. Now, I can edit that caption if I wanted to, or I can hide it. For that one, I'm going to go ahead and hide it. And then I'm going to make that back to entire view. Let's click on our budget versus variance table, switch that to standard so we can see. Go back to worksheet, show caption. So this is just telling us, it's really describing what we have. Budget, amount, and variance broken down by category. So that one, I'm going to say, don't really need captions on that either. Going to right click and just hide that caption, make it back to entire view. We'll explore captions on different dashboards that we're going to create. It just doesn't make sense for this one in particular, in my opinion. Let's go ahead and bring up a new dashboard sheet and save your file. So on this dashboard, we're going to start with a vertical container that's going to contain one viz. And then we're going to add a horizontal container to hold two different visualizations. So I'm going to go ahead and drag my vertical container onto the canvas. And we're going to use the spending by month visualization in that container. And for right now, we're good. One of the things we can do here is we don't need this color legend. So I'm going to click on the legend on the right and use the X to remove the legend from the dashboard. The next thing I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to right click on its title, spending by month, and I'm going to hide its title. And now I'm ready to grab my horizontal container. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag it as far, I'm going to point as far to the bottom as I can and drop it. So it pushed the vertical container upwards, but we'll adjust all of that in a little bit. For the horizontal container, we're going to put date level detail. Now, this is the trick. I want it on the left side of the container, but I don't want it to shade like this because that will force the area chart above it to go to the right, and we don't want that to happen. So I'm going to just point down a little bit so that my entire container is selected, and then I'll let it go. And then we're going to grab the expense detail, and I'm going to drag that to the right side of my horizontal container inside, in that gray area next to the thick right border. I'm going to drop it. And then I'm going to go to the container by double clicking the expense detail handle. So now that horizontal container is selected, I'm going to go to its more options button, and I'm going to select distribute contents evenly. So those two vizzes are distributed evenly within the container. Now, we don't need this amount color palette visualization there, or pane there. So I'm going to click on it and use the X to remove that from the dashboard. And then we have two select months. One is for date level detail, which is currently set to April 2018. And the other one is for expense detail at September 2019. I'm going to select the April 2018 one, do its more options drop down, and make it floating. And that way I can move it where I want to put it. And where I'd like to put it is right at the top left corner of that date level detail viz. Let me move it just a little bit more, so I'm not blocking any dates or anything. It can sit right there. And then I'm going to make the other one floating. And I'm going to move that one to the upper right corner of this expense detail viz. So I can use either of these on the dashboard. I'll change this one to December 2018. I'll change this one to January 2019, something like that. This actually created this area over here is another horizontal container on its own. And I am going to remove that empty one from the dashboard so that everything else fills. Now I have to move my floating month on the right side again, so it's back in position. So we get more space here this way. Now we need to name this dashboard, and we are going to name it Spending by Month with Date and Expense Detail. And I'm going to make sure that I'm showing the dashboard title so I can see that as well, right? And that's why I got rid of the Spending by Month title. The other thing I'm going to do is I am going to double click my expense detail handle to select the container, put my mouse at the very top of the container so I get the double arrow, click and hold and drag down so that our area chart has a little bit more space. And you're going to go ahead and save your workbook and bring up a new dashboard sheet and get your sizing the way it needs to be. So on this dashboard, we're going to kind of mimic what we did on the previous one by starting with a vertical container. And we're going to use the same viz, the spending by month viz, to put in that container. We are going to right click on that viz's title and hide it. And we're going to remove the color legend from the dashboard. Now we're going to grab a horizontal container. And again, I'm going to point as far down to the bottom as I can get. And this time we're going to use the account detail by month. So I'm going to grab that and drag it into the container. And this time it collapsed it the opposite way. So I'm going to expand that so I can see what I'm doing. And then I'm going to grab the account overview by month and place it to the right of account detail. Now, both of these will leave their titles, right? And now if you notice on the right, the legend and the filters are all in another container, another horizontal container. They're all grouped together. So what I'd like to do is this. We have the first one that says select month, right? And I am going to right click on that one and edit its title. I'm going to type detail month for the account detail chart. And then the other month one, I'm going to edit its title to overview month and click OK. So we can tell which ones they're for based on their names a little bit better now. What I'm going to do is, because they're in a container, I want to make account name legend floating, and I'm going to just drag it down so it's to the right of the right visualization. And then I'm going to do the same with the overview month, make it floating, and drag it down. And then we have select account, which also goes to that right side chart. So we at least have all of its filters and its legend next to it. And then that just leaves that detail month filter here. Now, if I'm going to save first before I do this. I've made it floating, And I'm going to drag that one to like right here, detail month. So right on its viz. And now I can save again. And we just need to name this dashboard. And it's going to be spending by month with account. Just ignore what I'm typing. Spending by month with account overview and detail. And then go ahead and show its title. So far, you've learned about floating versus tiled windows here in dashboards. You've worked with the horizontal and vertical containers as well, and you saw that you can have a mix of those on the same dashboard, which can be useful. You learned that floating was very helpful when it came to the legends and the filters on this current dashboard that we just worked on. Right? So it made it possible to move those around where they make sense. The only thing we haven't covered in this module is the item hierarchy. And we do that. So you notice when you're on that dashboard pane on the left, there's another tab at the top, the layout tab. And by the way, if you wanted to collapse that pane, you can to get more working space. And then you'll see the tabs a little bit differently. I'm going to go to the layout tab. And on the layout tab, if I have anything selected, so I'm going to select the account overview by month, right? It's showing that the title, so selected item, let me expand this. The title is showing, it's not floating. I'm not controlling its visibility using a value. Doesn't have border, background, outer or inner padding, all of those things you can do. But at the bottom of all of that is the item hierarchy. So if I look at the hierarchy here, right? And even, let me just click over here in a blank area. So when I click in a blank area, I don't have anything selected, but I can still get to the item hierarchy. That just impacts everything up here under selected item. So the item hierarchy, I've got filters, detail month, select account, overview month, right? I have this account name legend, and then it says tiled, right? And I can expand that. So within tiled is a vertical pane, which has spending by month with account in it. Then I have a horizontal pane in there, right? I can expand that. And that has vertical. And then I get my spending by month, another horizontal, account details, account overview, right? And then vertical again. So that is the item hierarchy. Really, the only thing you get when you right click over there is the same thing you click when you right click, on an arrow on any object in here. I've been reading some forums about this, and there's a lot of people that would like to make the item hierarchy more usable. So you can click and drag within the hierarchy to change the position of your vises on a dashboard. But I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but it is here so you can see the hierarchy of your items on your dashboard. Go ahead and save your file. By way of recap, in Module 1, we ultimately created a few personal finance dashboards. We started with using the Tableau data interpreter to clean some of our data in an Excel file. And then we moved on to creating several visualizations that we would use on our dashboards. When we got to creating dashboards, you learned the difference between floating and tiled objects. We also, at the end, learned about item hierarchy. And along the way, we used horizontal and vertical containers and a mix of both. In Module 2, we'll be using the built-in Tableau Superstore Basic Sales dataset to create our dashboard. We'll start off by learning about graphic sizing, move on to filters and formatting labels before tackling how to create dual axes visualizations. So to get into Module 2, I'm going to go ahead and close this file using the File menu. I've already saved. You'll notice the tile shows there if I wanted to reopen Personal Finance. I'm not going to go back to it during this course, so I'm going to hover over it, and I'm going to click the X to don't show the workbook. If I want to reopen it, I can go over to the right and open the workbook, as you probably already know. So with Module 2, we're using built-in Tableau information. Now, a couple of things I want to point out. We're going to be using sample Superstore data. So on the left side, don't click it. There is a saved sample Superstore data source. We're not going to use it because it doesn't have everything in it that we need. And so down at the bottom, you'll see some accelerators that are built in. There's a Superstore and Accelerator. It's kind of like a dashboard, a workbook with dashboards and other worksheets in it. We're not going to actually use it. We're going to just mine it for its data and then continue with this module. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on that Superstore Accelerator. So it opens on this overview dashboard. And like I said, we're not going to be using this workbook. We are actually going to be mining it for its data. And so in order to do that, this is what we're going to do. We have a couple of sheets. So there's a performance sheet. Let's go to the performance sheet. And then when we're on a sheet, we can see the data sources here at the top. Now we only need 2 of them. We're not going to deal with commission. We need the sample Superstore data source and we need the sales target data source. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on sample Superstore data source and I'm going to choose view data. And so in the view data, it's showing you the data, but also at the top, it has a download icon. We're going to go ahead and download this. Now, you're going to want to put it in like a Module 2 folder or something, because I didn't supply you with a Module 2 folder. So I'm going to download it to where all the rest of my files are in a folder, either named Module 2 or sample Superstore, whatever. So go ahead and download that. And so now that I have that source downloaded, I'm going to close the view data box and I'm going to click on the sales target source, right click, view data, and do the same thing. I'm going to download that into the same folder that I just created. And then I can literally close view data and go to file and close this file. And I don't need to save any changes to the workbook. I got what I needed. But I'm going to remove that Superstore tile from under open so that I don't mistakenly open it. Okay, so both of those were text files or CSVs. We're going to use text file on the left, and I'm going to navigate to what I called my sample Superstore folder. And I'm going to grab sample Superstore orders. And strange, but I actually have the CSV for sales target over here. I'm going to go up to add and do text file and click the one that I mined. I have both of these connections in here, and sample Superstore orders is already on the canvas here in the logical layer. Let's check to see the relationship between sample Superstore and the sales target. So I'm going to drag sales target onto the canvas. And when we did this in the last module, it was automatically able to detect the relationship. And the reason why it's not able to detect the relationship here is because there are multiple fields that match. So when I hover over that warning symbol, it says it has no matching fields. Edit the relationship to select matching fields. And down here, it has the edit relationship box. So If I wanted to, I can go to the drop down on Sample Superstore. I happen to know there's two matching fields. There's category, and I believe order date is another matching field. So I'm going to select category for Sample Superstore. And on the right side, you can see, yeah, they do have category and order date. I'm going to select the category for sales target. And now it created that relationship. And now we're going to double click on that Sample Superstore tile to get into the physical layer. And we're going to join these. So we have a joined, like we did earlier, data source. And so I'm going to drag the sales target CSV onto the physical layer, and it automatically creates the join, another inner join, which is fine. And down in your data grid, if you can scroll to the right, you'll see eventually the sales target fields that came in, right? So since we did a relationship on the category field, we're going to hide the sales target category field. And we can also hide the sales target order date field. So really, the only field we really need from sales target is the sales target field. Segment is also a field in Sample Superstore. So let's hide that one as well. And now let's go ahead and save this file. In this module, we're going to create 6 different visualizations and ultimately end up with 3 dashboards. When we get to the dashboards, you'll learn about the other topics, the other lessons, graphic sizing. You'll learn more about filtering and formatting labels. While we're creating our visualizations, you'll learn about how to create a dual axis viz and why you would do so. So let's go ahead and let's go to sheet 1 and we'll get started. Let's go ahead and name the sheet first, and we're going to name this sheet Performance. We're going to drag the Sample Superstore. So here are the fields that when you hide them on data source view, they're still showing up here. So before we even do this, let's hide that category under sales target. We're also going to hide the order date and the segment and just leave the sales target measure there. And so for this viz, we're going to drag category to columns. And we're going to drag sales to columns as well. And ultimately, the visualization we're building will let us know whether sales are above or below target. So we have our category and sum of sales in columns, and we're going to drag order date to rows, and we want to see the year and the month. Now, there's a couple of different ways you can do this. I'm going to do the plus sign in front of order date, the order date pill in the rows shelf, and now it gives me quarter. I'm going to do the plus sign on quarter, and I get month, and then I'm going to just delete the quarter pill. 6 of one, half dozen of the other. There's so many different ways that you can do this. And we're also going to drag the segment field to rows. So we have our year of order dates, month of the order date, the segment, and then we have our categories going across the top. And our sales, of course, are on the x-axis at the bottom. What we want to do is we want to drag the order date to the filters card. We're going to do range of dates. We'll leave it on range of dates and we'll do next. And it's giving me the range of dates that are in our data. So we're good with that. We're going to do apply. And I'm going to cancel that. and I'm going to right click on that filter and show the filter. So the filter will let me, it's a slider type filter, right? And it's showing all the order dates there. If I change it so it's a range of dates, that's fine. It's all going to be a slider. So we're good with that. And actually, we're not good with that. So let's delete that filter on the right. You can just remove the filter. And it removes the filter from the filter shelf as well. So we're going to drag order date back to filters. I'd rather them pick the year that they want to see. So instead of range of dates, let's do years. Next, we're going to use all and apply and OK. And now we can right click and show that filter. And we'll change it to, we'll just do a single value drop down. So 1 year at a time. And let's edit the filter's title. And I'm going to get rid of order date there. And I'm going to put the word select in front of year. Now we're going to create a calculated field, which will let us know whether the sales values are above or below target. So I'm going to go to the top of the data pane. Right up at the top to the left of filter shelf, you'll see a little down arrow. I'm going to use that and just choose create calculated field. We're going to name this sales above target ? And then I'm going to tab down to the body of it. So we're going to be using the if, then, else, end function in this, or functions, I should say, as well as a couple of sum functions in this calculation. So we're going to type the letter I, and you'll see the if function at the top of the list. It's highlighted, so I'm going to use my tab key to just tab it in. Now, just as a reminder, in this screen, you have this right pointing arrow, and you can click it to get information on different functions. So since we already typed in if, notice that if is already selected in this list, and it gives you this basic syntax of how to use it and what it does. So it tests a series of expressions returning the then value for the first true expression. So example, if profit is greater than 0, then profitable. And that means the word profitable would show up. Else if, now we're not using an else if in ours. Else if, it gives it another condition to test. If profit equals 0, then it will show the word break even. If neither of those are true, after else, it says loss, and that's what will show. And then you have your end. That's a variation of the if construct. I'm going to just collapse that pane. And after if, here, we're going to start typing sum. And sum shows up on the list, and I'm going to grab it and tab it in. So we want the test to be on the sum of the sales. So I'm going to start typing sales, tab that in. So right now you have if space sum, open paren, open square bracket, sales, close square bracket, close paren. In the bottom left, it tells us the calculation contains errors, and that's because we haven't completed it yet. So I'm going to do a space after that closing paren. Then I'm going to do a greater than symbol, space. And the spaces aren't required. It's just easier for me to see it when I do it this way. We're going to do an open parenthesis. We're going to start typing the sum function again. I usually stop typing when I see it on the list. Select it from the list. And this time we want the sales target field. And then we need another closing paren. We're still not done. We need our then statement or function. So I'm going to go ahead and select then. And at this point, I don't want to be in a situation where I can't see my full thing. So I'm going to press enter to just go down to the next line. In double quotes, I'm going to type above target, close the quotes, grab the else function, and then in double quotes, below target, and then the end function. So now at the bottom, it should show up that the calculation is valid. So what this is saying, if the sum of sales is greater than the sum of the sales target, then we want it to say it's above target. If it's not, we want it to say it's below target. We only gave it one condition. If it is, it will say above target, or else it will say below target. And you have to have an end at the end of an if block. So we're going to go ahead and click OK. And you notice under measure names at the bottom of your field pane, you'll see your sales above target calculated field. Now it has an ABC representing text because its return is either above target or below target. Items that you want as text have to be in those double quotes. And we're going to drag that sales above target to color on the marks card. So now we'll see on the right, we have our legend, right? So now we're going to go to sheet 1, and we can see our fields from budget. And we can also see the fields from personal transactions there. I thought that I hid that category field for budget. So if it's still showing there, you can just right click on it and hide it from here as well. I just want to make sure that we don't have the same field showing twice, even though it has a slightly different name. It can lead to some confusion. And so the first viz we're going to build is a text table. And we want to see the budget versus variance, basically, is what we're looking to do here. So we're going to drag the budget field to columns. And we're going to drag the amount field also to columns. And then on the right, we're going to use our show me and select the first viz type, which is text table. We want this in a text table. And then you notice since we used 2 measures for that, it gave us the measure name pill in the rows as well as in filters. And you see your measure values on the left in your marks card. And it placed them in text as well. So we're seeing the amount and the budget in our text table. We want our measure names to be in columns and not rows. So I'm going to just drag and drop it from rows to columns. That's how we're going to want our text table to look. And we want to create a calculation that will give us the variance. So what we're going to do is we're going to just do an ad hoc calculation. It's also known as an inline calculation. We're going to double click in columns to the right of measure names, and it gives us an empty pill that we can type into. And so really simple calculation we're going to use here. So it's going to be, we're going to start typing budget, and when it shows up on the list, you can just tab it in. And then we want the minus sign, and then start typing amount, and I'm going to tab that field in. So budget minus the amount is the difference, the variance. We're going to press enter. So now we have that function, and it did the sum of it. And what I like to do with my inline calculations is name them. So I'm going to drag that sum budget minus amount and drop it in the field list. And from there, it's under measure names. I can go ahead and name it variance. And then I'm going to just press enter, and notice it changes it up here as well. So what I want to do is change this back to a text table. Since we added another dimension, it automatically changed it to, another measure, it automatically changed it to a different type of viz. So now I'm going to drag my measure names back to columns from rows. On the marks card at the bottom where it has measure values, I want to make sure that they're in the right order. So we really want them to be budget, amount, and then variance. So I'm going to just click and hold on amount, drag it down. You'll see that little orangey colored arrow. That's your guideline. And I want it to be underneath budget. So budget, amount, and variance. And notice our text table updated here. Now we want some more context for this text table. So we're going to go ahead and grab the category field and drag it to rows. And so now we're seeing the budget, the amount, and the variance based on each category. Let's name this new sheet Forecast. And we're going to drag the order date field to columns. And we want it to be the month of the order date. So I'm going to use the second month. It has the month and the year. And let's drag segment to rows and sales to rows. Let's also drag segment to color on the marks card. So we have some differentiation there. And we have, of course, our color legend on the right. So to add our forecast, we're going to go up to the analysis menu, and we're going to hover over forecast, and we're going to choose show forecast. So now we're seeing the forecast per segment for the sales, right? So if you look at consumer, you'll notice the forecast portion is on the right side and it has shading. And you also get a segment and forecast indicator over on the right, which is showing you the actual versus the estimate. The estimate is the shaded portion here, right? So if you hover over it, you'll see the forecast indicator estimate, the segment, the month of the order date, and the sales. So it's looking at previous periods and forecasting what's to come, right? This is what it's doing. So it's just doing a forecast based on the previous sales trends. So in other words, it's projecting by estimating what can happen over the next 12-month period. Let's go ahead and save this file, and we're going to bring up a new sheet. We're going to name the new sheet What If Forecast. And on this one, we're going to be creating two parameters that the end users on the dashboard will be able to use to change some criteria to predict what would happen in forecasting if those criteria are different. So you'll see how this plays out. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to add order date to the filters, and we want it to be on years, and next. And we're going to use all and apply and OK. Then we're going to right click on it and show the filter. And over on the filter pane on the right, we're going to change the name of the title to just say order date. So I'm going to get rid of year and the parentheses there. So easy breezy. We have a filter. We should probably do its drop down arrow and make it a single value drop down. And then we're also going to drag the region field to the filter shelf. We're going to use all. Okay. And I think we're going to show that filter as well, and also make it a single value drop down. So now we're going to drag order date to columns. And we really want to show the quarter and the month. So I'm going to do the plus sign in front of year, the plus sign in front of quarter, and then I'm going to delete the year pill. So we have quarter and month of order date there. And now we're going to create the first of two parameters. So just where we went to create the calculated field, that same drop down I'm going to use at the top of the field list, and I'm going to select create parameter. So the first parameter is going to be churn rate. That's the name of it. So churn rate refers to the percentage of customers lost over the course of a month. That's what it is. And this is one of the things that can be changed. Its values can be changed so you can get a clear what if forecast. So we're going to leave the data type on float. And the display format, we're going to do the drop down and select percentage. And we're going to leave it with 2 decimal places. We're going to leave the current values, and under allowable values, we're going to select range. So we're going to check the box in front of minimum, and the minimum churn rate is going to be 0. We're going to check in front of maximum, and the maximum is going to be 0.25. And we're going to check step size, and that's going to be 0.001. And over on the right, you want to make sure that it's fixed. And at the bottom, we are going to click OK. So now in our field list, if you go all the way to the bottom, you'll see your parameters and you'll see churn rate down there. We're going to right click on it and choose show parameter. So the numbers that we used, right? And this is not going to work right now, but we put in a minimum of 0, which is represented there, right? And it's, you notice this slider is all the way over to the left. If we drag the slider all the way over to the right, the maximum is 0.25 is what we put in. So it goes to 25%. So from 0 to 25%. I'm going to drag the slider back to the left. And if I use those arrows, when I click on the right arrow, it increases by 0.001, which was the step size that we put in. So I'm going to just use the left arrow to get it back on 0. Go ahead and drag cells to columns like I've done. And if necessary, use your show me to select the horizontal bars. And now we're going to create our second parameter. There's only 2 in this one, no worries. So I'm going to go back to my drop down, create parameter. And this one, instead of its default parameter 2 name, it's going to be called new business growth. We're going to leave the data type as float. For the format, we also want a percentage, but for this one, we want 0 decimal places. We're going to go down to our range under allowable values. The minimum here is going to be 0. The maximum is going to be 1. And the step size is going to be 0.01. And we're going to click OK. And we're going to go down to our parameters area and show the new business growth parameter. So you see it's set on 100%. If I do the slider back, it's 0. And the same thing, the arrows, it's going up 1% at a time. Now we're going to add a caption to this so that we can explain to the end users how to use the churn rate and new business growth parameters. So I'm going to go to the worksheet menu, show caption, and the caption is showing at the bottom of the screen. And I'm going to right click on it and edit caption. So you saw this in the first module. When you add a caption, it kind of like shows what's going on with the visualization. I'm going to do Control A because I want to use it to give direction on the parameters. So I'm going to type change the growth rate and churn rate. Well, actually, it's new business growth, not rate there, sorry. So change the new business growth, new business growth without the word rate, and churn rate parameters to better understand their impact on sales forecasts. And then I'm going to just do OK. And I am going to grab that caption and drag it and drop it on the right underneath the parameters. So we have a few more changes to make before this will all pull together. The first thing we're going to do is go up to columns and delete the sum of sales pill and move your quarter and month pills up to columns instead of rows. Now we're going to grab the region field and move it to rows, and then put segment in rows next to region. And let's go to show me at this point and just select text table, the first viz that's there. Now we have to create a calculated field that references both of the parameters that we created. So I'm going to go to my drop down and select create calculated field. This one I'm going to name diff, for abbreviation for difference, sales versus forecast. So we're going to use the sum function on the sales field. And then we're going to type an asterisk for multiplication, open parenthesis, the number 1, a plus sign, and then we're going to grab the new business growth parameter. We need a closing paren, another asterisk for multiplication, open paren. This one is going to be the number 1 and the minus sign, and we're going to reference churn rate parameter. And we just need to put a closing paren at the end so our calculation is valid. Go ahead and click OK. Now we're going to grab our sales measure and we're going to drag it and drop it onto detail in the marks card. We're also going to do the same with sales forecast. That also goes on detail. And as does our newly created calculated field, diff sales versus forecast. Now we're going to grab our calculated field, diff sales versus forecast, and we're going to drag it right into the table. You're able to drop it when you have that solid border. Now in your field list, look for the measure names field, and we're going to drag it to the filter shelf. And we're going to select none, so it shows measure name shows all of the measures that are in your data. And we're going to just select none, and at the bottom we're going to check sales and sales forecast and choose OK. And now we're going to drag measure names again from the field list. This time we're going to drop it on color in the marks card. So right now on the right you'll see the legend. It says no measure value at this point. So in your field list, you'll also have a field called measure values. And it's right above on my screen. It's right above my parameters. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag that and drop it on text in the marks card. And now in the marks card, I'm going to get rid of the text pill that has the ag different sales versus forecast. Going to just delete that. Now, up top in the column and rows shelves, I'm going to drag region back down to rows in front of segment. And then I'm going to add the measure name fields after segment in the rows. So I'm going to just grab that and put that up in rows. So a couple of things. Now in our table, we have it broken down by quarter and month, right, of the order date. We have our regions and our segments, And then we have our sales and our sales forecast. So let's do this. Let's go to that measure names legend and do its drop down arrow, and we'll choose edit colors. I want distinct colors here. I'm going to use not going to use traffic light this time. I'm going to go ahead and choose summer. For sales, I'm going to do green. And for sales forecast, I'm going to do orange. And I'm going to click OK. Ooh, that is way not good colors for me to see visually. So I'm going to go back and edit my colors again, and you can as well if you followed my instructions, because those are horrible color combinations on the eyes. So I think I'm going to go back in, edit my colors. You can do it. You can select whatever palette you want and whatever colors you would like to use. Now let's drag our diff sales versus forecast calculated field into our table. And then under measure values, you'll notice that it shows there, and it also shows on the measure names color legend on the right. Now we want to organize these differently. So in your marks card underneath measure values, you're going to grab that ag diff sales versus forecasts and drag it to the bottom. So in our table, we have sales, sales forecast, and difference between sales versus the forecast. At this point, we can test our parameters. So I'm going to go to the churn rate parameter, and I'm going to just slide the bar. And if I slide it back, you keep an eye on your numbers in your table, you'll see that when I change that parameter, you'll see our different sales versus forecast number changing. And then I can change the new business growth parameter for the same effect. So both of them in conjunction, because they're referenced in that different sales versus forecast calculated field, that's what's changing on this. So you can go through different churn rates and new business growth to see how it could affect your sales in the future. And I'm going to set both of those parameters back to 0. Now, the last thing we want to do is we want to make the title on this sheet dynamic. So let's go to Edit Title. I'm going to leave the sheet name placeholder there, so it'll say What If Forecast. And after that, I'm going to type Based On, and I'm going to go to the Insert dropdown. And at the bottom, I'm going to select year, order date, so I don't have to type all of that in that format. Now I'm going to do a space. I'm going to go back to insert, and I'm going to choose the new business growth parameter, type a space, and then I'm going to type the word growth and a comma. And then I'm going to go to insert and grab our churn rate parameter. And after that, I'm going to type churn. And now I'm going to click OK. So right now, the title says, What If Forecast based on all 0% growth, 0.00% churn. As I use the parameters, those numbers will change. And by the way, once we drag the different diff sales versus forecast into the table, it became part of measure names. So if you want to go and change your colors, now that we have 3 things, you can, or you can leave them as is. So I've changed my colors. Let's go ahead and save and then bring up a new sheet. Let's go ahead and name this sheet Total Sales. So again, these visits are going to end up on our dashboard. But at the end of the day and at the end of this course, you're going to be left with several data sources, several Tableau workbooks, all of which will have vizzes and dashboards in them. So we are going to create more calculated fields now. And another way to do it is from the analysis menu. You'll see you have create calculated field there as well. So this calculated field, we're going to name profit ratio. And the calculation is going to be sum, and we can grab the sum function there. And it's going to be profit, the field profit. And then we're going to do a slash for division. We're going to type sum again. And this time we're going to have sales. So the sum of the profit divided by the sum of the sales is the profit ratio. And we're going to click OK. And we're going to drag that calculated field to text on the marks card. So it's just showing the profit ratio right there. Let's go and do another calculated field. And this one we're going to call profit per order. And it's going to be the sum function again on the profit field. And then we're going to use our divisional slash again. And now we're going to use a function. You're going to learn about it again later on in the course, but the count D function. So you'll notice on the list, you have a count and a count D. Count will count all of the items in a field. Count D will only count the unique items in the field. So if you were doing a count on like last name or something, say you had a few people with the same last name, it would only count that last name once when you're using count D. And count D is what we want. And we want the count on the order ID field. And we are going to go ahead and click OK. We're going to also drag profit to order to text in the marks card. Profit per order, rather. There it is. A little bit of a delay. And now we have one more calculated field to create. So let's go ahead and get it started. This one is going to be sales per customer. I'm going to start with the sum function again, this time on the sales field. And then we're going to do our divisional slash. And we're going to do count D again on the customer name field. So sales divided by the count of customers, sales divided by customers. And we're going to go ahead and click OK. And we're going to also drag sales per customer to text. We're going to drag our measure names field to filters. We're going to select none at the bottom. And then we'll select discount, profit, profit ratio, profit per order, quantity. And when you scroll down, you're going to select sales and sales per customer. And we're going to click OK. And now from the field list, we're going to grab measure names again. And we're going to drag it to columns. Say no measure value, right? And now we're going to drag our measure values to text. On the marks card, we want to change the aggregate that's being used on discount. It's the sum that it defaults to. So I'm going to just do under measure values on the marks card. I'm going to do the drop down. I'm going to hover over measure sum, and I'm going to choose it to average. I'm going to change it to average. So now in our marks card, we want to arrange those measure values. So I'm going to grab sum of sales and drag that to the top. And after that, I would like the sum of profit. After profit, I would like the profit ratio. And then I would like the profit per order. Sales per customer comes after profit per order. If I can nudge it in there. There we go. So we have sales, profit, profit ratio, profit per order, sales per customer. And I accidentally got rid of my discount field, my average discount. So you can have that after sales per customer and quantity last. I'm going to just get my average discount back. So I just dragged it from the field list to the right place under measure values and then changed it back from sum to average to get it back. So now that we have these in order, we're going to do a little bit of formatting on these measures. I'm going to just right click on any number in the table and go to format. And then I'm going to use the fields drop down and I am going to select sales. So I'll tell you right now, sales, profit per order, and sales per customer, we're going to want to be currency with no decimal places. I'm going to click on sales. I'm going to change it to currency custom and get rid of the decimal places. And then I'm going to do the same thing. So that's sales. We want to do the same thing for the profit field. So go ahead and do that. And then we're going to do it for profit ratio. Profit per order. Same thing. And we also have to do it for sales per customer. So that same format on all of those measures. And then for profit ratio, we are going to change that to a percentage, and we want it to have one decimal place. The next field is going to be our average discount field. And we want that to be a percentage with 2 decimal places. And last but not least, the quantity field. The quantity field, I'm going to go to that one. And I want it to have this default, the automatic one, or just a standard number is what I want. Let's close our format pane and drag the region field to rows. And we're going to drag region from the field list to filters as well. And we're going to leave all selected. Click OK and show that region filter. And we're going to make it a multiple values drop down. So now we're going to make this worksheet title dynamic. So I'm going to double click total sales. And I'm going to just do Control A so I can get rid of that. I don't want the total sales to show at all. And it's going to say executive overview dash profitability space. And then I'm going to go to the insert drop down and at the bottom select region and click OK. So now, because we have all regions there, right? It's showing profitability, central, east, south, and one more. I'm going to go to the drop down arrow for the region, not to select a different region, but to edit it. And so, okay, I'm just checking. We already made it a multiple values drop down, so that's good. So now I'm going to do its drop down and I'm going to uncheck all and select east and west. So now you can see executive overview, profitability, east and west. And then I'm going to put it back on all, the region filter. And now instead of saying, I think it's central, east, south, and one other, it now says profitability all. And we are ready to save. And we're going to do a new sheet. We only have 2 more visits to do before we get to our dashboards in this module. Because we have geographical roles assigned to some of our fields, we're able to create maps. And so if you look in your field list under sample Superstore orders, you'll see all of the fields that have the globe icon have geographic roles assigned to them, and therefore they can be used in mapping. So if I want to, on the city field, let's right click on it and hover over geographic role, and you'll see that it's assigned the role of city. Makes sense. It's the city field. So as long as you have geographic roles assigned, you can create maps in Tableau. So what we're going to do, let's first name this sheet Sales Map. And we're going to drag the region field to columns. And we're going to drag state province field to rows. And so now we can go to show me, and we can, so there's a couple of different kinds of maps that are in show me. There's also a density map that you'll get to see later on in the course. But the two that are on show me are, the recommended one is a symbol map. And then there's one that just says map, and that is called a filled map. That's the one that we want. So it's going to draw the map, and we can get rid of the region pill in rows now. Everything's been replaced with latitude, longitude in columns, and latitude in rows. We want regional information. We can put region on detail in the marks card. And now as you hover over any state on the map, you'll see the region and the state province. Let's add the sales field to color on the marks card. And so you can see in its color legend the range of sales, 171,000 and change to 693 million. And so the darker states have the larger sales, which kind of makes sense. That's like New York, California. Texas is not far behind on this list, so on and so forth. And now let's drag region to filters shelf. We'll leave it on all. Click OK. And then we want to show that filter. And again, we can make it a multiple values drop down, just so it doesn't take up so much space. And so now I can filter for different regions. Like I'll do East, and it just zooms the map into the East region. I can check West, and now you can see both of those regions colored on the map. I'm going to put it back to all. Last but not least, we're going to change the title to say sales. So I'm going to get rid of that sheet name placeholder, and it's going to be sales by geography. And click OK. And you're going to go ahead and save your file and bring up one more new sheet. So for our last viz, let's go ahead and name the sheet sales by segment. And we're going to do another area chart for this one. So let's do the order date to columns. And we're going to want it to be the month of the order date, so it shows the month and the year. And we're going to drag segment and sales to rows. We're going to go to show me. And we're going to choose the area chart again. So we have our sales, and it's divided by segment. You can see the coloration are the segments. I'm going to collapse show me, and you'll see that color legend on the right. And so by the month of the order date, it's showing the sales for each segment: corporate, home office, and consumer. Because we converted it to an area chart, it took segment out of rows, and we want it back there in front of sales. So what I'm going to do, I don't have to drag it from the field list. I can copy it. You notice it puts segment in color in the marks card. I'm going to hold down Control, click on it in the marks card, drag it up to rows, and drop it in front of sum. And that's how you copy it as opposed to moving it. So now we have our segments actually showing as separate area charts at this point. And of course, we're going to create a calculated field. And so for this calculated field, we're going to name it Order Profitable ? And we're going to use a different kind of calculation here than we've used so far. We want an opening curly bracket, and you're going to type fixed. You'll see it on the list. So you have the opening curly bracket and the fixed function. And now we're going to type order, and we'll see the order ID field that we want to grab. We're going to do a colon and another space. And we're going to do sum, grab the sum function, and the profit field. After the profit field's closing parenthesis, we're going to do a closing curly bracket. And then we're going to do the greater than symbol and the number 0. So what this syntax is doing, it's calculating the profit at the order level is what it's doing. Let's go ahead and click OK. And now we're going to, if you look at your order profitable calculated field, you'll notice it has the TF. So it's either true or false. Either it is or it isn't. And what we're going to do is we're going to drag that to color on the marks card. So now we're seeing whether the order is profitable, true or false for each segment. So we don't want our order profitable color legend to say false and true. We want it to say unprofitable or profitable. So we're going to right click on that. Well, actually, I'm going to right click on false on that. And I'm going to choose edit alias. And the alias for false is going to be unprofitable. And I'm going to do the same for true, edit its alias to say profitable. I'm going to edit the colors, and I'm going to do that, from here. We've been doing this all along. I'm going to go back to my traffic light palette. And for profitable, I'm going to make it green. Unprofitable, I'm going to make it red. And click OK. Now when you hover over a mark, you'll see whether it's profitable, the segment, the month, and the sales. We'd also like to see profit on that tooltip. So I'm going to go and grab the profit field and drag it to tooltip on the marks card. And now when I hover over the mark, I can see the profit as well. Now I want to edit that tooltip somewhat. So on the marks card, I'm going to click on tooltip. And I can edit it in this box. So the first thing I'm going to do is, let's see. I'm going to grab the segment field, that has the brackets around it. And I'm going to do Control X to cut it. I'm going to click in front of the first thing that's there, order profitable, press enter a couple of times, and then up arrow. And I'm going to Control V and paste that segment field in there. After I paste it at the top, I'm going to select it again. And I'm going to change its font size to 12 point. And I'm going to give it like an orange color. And I'm going to click after that segment field and type a dash and a space. And then I'm going to go and grab the month order date field, and I'm going to cut that and paste it up top. So right now you have an orange larger font segment, a dash, and then the month of order date. After month of order date, I'm going to press enter. And then I'm going to grab that order profitable field and cut it, paste it underneath segment. And then after it, I'm going to type a space and the word orders. Press enter. And then I can delete order profitable and segment. And I can also delete month of order date lines. And I'm left with profit and sales here. So what I want to do is I want to grab sales, its heading and its field. I'm going to cut that and I want it above profit. So I'll paste it there. And now we can click OK. And now when you hover over a mark, you'll see how your tooltip has been impacted, right? So consumer is the segment that's a little bit larger. It's orange. It's showing me the month and year of the order date. It's letting me know when orders are profitable or unprofitable. And then it's showing the sales and the profit. Now we're going to add some filters. So we're going to grab our order profitable field and drag it to filters. And we're going to leave both of these. So we're going to click OK. And then we can show that filter. Let's make it a single, a single value drop down. So right now it's showing the unprofitable. And I can go back to all, or I could go to profitable. So I'll leave it back on all for now. We're also going to add a state province filter. And notice, just going through the states in there, there's 59 values. So they have British Columbia in there. They have a couple of Canadian provinces, Manitoba, so on and so forth. So we're going to choose all and OK. And we're going to show that filter as well. And we'll make it a multiple value drop down. So even though we don't have state province on our view, we can still filter. I'm going to just uncheck all and I'm going to check, let me do California. So it's showing just the information for California now. I'm going to put it back on all. The other filter we would like is region. And we're going to select all of them. And then we're going to show the filter. And we will make it a multiple value drop down. We're going to move our order profitable color legend from the right side of the screen. So when I put my mouse on its title, it looks like a four-headed arrow. I'm going to drag it over to the left underneath the marks card, just because I wanted to show you that you can do that. We want to hide the field labels for rows. We don't need it to say segment there. So I'm going to right click on that and hide the field labels. And we don't want to see the header for the Y axis. We don't need it to say sales repeatedly. So I'm going to right click there and I'm going to uncheck show header. We also don't want the title on the X axis, month of order date. So I'm going to right click there and I'm going to edit the axis. And down at the bottom where title is, I'm going to just select that text, press delete, and close that box. And last but not least, we're going to edit the title just a little bit. So I double click there. We're going to keep in front of sheet name, we're going to keep that sheet name placeholder, but in front of it, we're going to type the word monthly and a space. And then at the end of it, so it'll say monthly sales by segment. At the end, I'm going to type a space, a dash, another space, and I'm going to type regions. colon, space a couple of times, and I'm going to go to the insert drop down and choose the region field. Go ahead and click OK. So go to your region filter, change it to a different region, and then change it, and you'll notice that this updates what the regions are. Change it back to all, and now it says all. So seems to be a little glitch that when you edit it, when you edit a title and you include the region on it, it will say initially like 3 of the regions plus 1 other. But then if you use the filter, it will adjust. We're done with this one right now. So let's save. We're going to create another one by making a copy of this monthly sales one. So the sales by segment, I'm going to just hold down Control, drag its tab to the right of its tab, and let go. So on the copy, we're going to rename the sheet tab to sales by category. So notice that our title updated because we left that sheet name placeholder in there when we edited our sheet title. And so for this one, we're going to just swap. I'm going to drag the category field to rows in front of segment. And then I'm going to delete the segment pill from the rows shelf. So now we have this going by category as opposed to segment. And what I'm going to have you do is go ahead and save your file and bring up a new dashboard sheet. And if you remember from the previous module, you want to adjust your size for your dashboard. So on this first dashboard, we're going to use a vertical container first. So I'm going to just drag that over onto the canvas. And within that container, we're going to grab our sales map and place it in there. We're also going to add another container to this. So we did this in the last module. We're going to grab our horizontal container, and I'm going to point as far down to the bottom as I can to get that in there. And in this one, we're going to have sales by segment on the left. So I'm going to just drop it in there. And then I'm going to put sales by category on the right. I'm going to double click the handle for sales by category to select the container. I'm going to do the container drop down and choose distribute contents evenly, which it already did this time. So by the way, on the map, we have 10 values that have unknown geographic locations. If I click on that, I can go to edit locations, and you're seeing that's all the British Columbia ones. We don't have sales in those locations. So I'm going to just do OK. I wanted you to see what that meant on the map. So with the map selected, I'm going to go to the worksheet menu and choose Show Caption. So it shows the caption right underneath the map. The map is based on longitude, which is generated, and latitude also generated. The color shows the sum of sales. Details are shown for state, province, and region. The view is filtered on region, which keeps central, east, south, and west. So could be good information, just a description of what's happening there. And I'm going to have you put captions on each of the vises that are in that horizontal container at the bottom. You may have to scroll down a little bit to see them, but I'm going to add them to both of those visualizations. So you can read them on your own. It's letting you know what's going on in both of those charts. And I'm going to click away from them. So on the right side, we literally have 3 different region filters. We have 2 state province filters, 2 order profitable filters, an order profitable color legend, and a sales color scheme. So we're going to address those. The top region and sales, the top region filter and that sales color scheme are related to the map. Later on in this course, you'll learn more about filters, so you won't end up in this situation that we're in right now. So what we need to do is we need to move some of these filters around. And you saw in the last module, we can do that by making them floating. So this second region filter, I'm going to use it just to see what it pertains to. And it's the monthly sales by segment viz. So I'm going to do its drop down arrow and I'm going to make it floating. And then I am going to grab it. Oops, I selected no regions, but I'll fix that. And I'm going to put it like here in the title, near the title. And then let me go back and select all. All right. So just want to move it closer to the visualization it applies to. Make it a little bit smaller so it just kind of pops in there. So then I believe this state province filter, let's see, I think that goes for the map as well. Let me just click on something there. Nope, that also goes for that visualization. So I'm going to put it back on all. Maybe. If I can get my clicking skills together, we'll be good. I'm going to bypass that one for right now. And then order profitable. This applies to both of these. Well, this one applies to the left one. The legend applies to both. And then we have our region, state, province, and order profitable for the right chart. So for the region for the rightmost chart, I'm going to make that floating. And I'm going to just drag it down to the right. Well, actually, I'll put that on top as well. So I have consistency there with those two filters on those two charts. And then I'm going to grab the bottommost state province filter, make that floating. And I'm going to drag it down to the right of the rightmost chart. And I'm going to do the same with the last order profitable one. And I'm going to put that under state province on the right side. The order profitable legend, I'm going to also make that floating. And I'm going to just drag that down here. So it's kind of like at the heading area of both of those two bottom charts. So now we're left with state province and order profitable for the leftmost chart. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on state province underneath your sales color legend. And for this one, I'm going to edit the title and I'm just going to call it, I'm going to put in front of state province, I'm going to put segment. So it relates it more to that left chart, which is by segment. And I'm going to do the same for order profitable, edit its title to add segment. So at least they make a little bit more sense. And I'm going to make both of them floating. And I'm going to just move them down. So segment order profitable will be above the order profitable legend. And then segment state province will be right above that, just so they're kind of grouped together. And then for consistency's sake, I'm going to rename state province and order profitable to category state province and category order profitable. So like I mentioned, later on in this course, you'll learn more about global filtering. So you won't end up having all these little filter things duplicated on your dashboards like they are now. And we're going to name this dashboard Overview. and go ahead and save your file and create a new dashboard sheet. So before we build the second dashboard, let's go back to the overview dashboard really quickly. You know, we moved these region filters. All three of these visualizations have a region filter. So in the next module, you're going to learn about global filters, but there is a better solution now that we can cover for this module, in this module concerning these filters. So this is what we are going to do. We are going to go and select our map visualization. On our map visualization, let's look at these icons on the right side of it. So you know the X is to remove it from the dashboard. The next one is go to that sheet, the original worksheet where the map resides. The third one is use as filter. The fourth one, the push pin, is to fix the height. And then you have your more options drop down. What we're going to do on that map is we're going to choose the use as filter funnel. So go ahead and click on that funnel and it will turn white. And then we're going to do the drop down arrow for more options. And we're going to click on, you'll notice that use as filter has a check mark now. We could have did it this way, but we're going to click on ignore actions. So we're going to use the map as our region filter, and it's going to filter the region for all three of these charts that are on this dashboard. And so how does it work? Well, if I hover over New York on the map, it lets me know it's in the East region. So when I click on New York State on the map, it's going to filter not only the map for the East region, but it's filtering these two charts as well. Now, because we tied region on the charts to the heading, it's going to say none, right? So that's a drawback to this. It's not going to say East. So this is what we're going to do. Click back on New York so it unfilters everything on the map. Now we have all of our stuff there together. Let's use the icon to go to the sheet that the map resides on. And we're going to delete the region pill from the filters box. And we're going to go to the sales by segment sheet and do the same thing. We are going to delete the region filter from the filters box. And we're going to go to sales by category sheet and do the same thing. And then let's go back to our overview dashboard. So we got rid of those. Now on here, we're going to just delete these region off of the segment and the category. We can remove from the dashboard for both of those. And we can even get rid of the region for the map at the top. If we're going to use this map as a filter, like I'm clicking on New York again, I can see that it filters, and we saw that. If I click on California on the map, I'm getting an error again. Weird errors popping up. They generally don't mean anything, so it did it anyway. It filtered for the West. The other thing I want to do is go ahead, since we're going to use this type of filter so we don't have all of those filter cards to deal with. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the sales by segment sheet, and I'm going to double click the title, and notice it has that missing field there. I'm just going to have the word monthly sales by segment, and I'm going to delete everything else in that title. And I'm going to do the same thing on sales by category. Just wanted to say monthly sales by category there, and click OK. And now at least when I go back to the overview dashboard, I'm going to click on Texas this time, getting this weird error message that doesn't mean anything. And it filtered both of these for Texas. I'm going to click on Texas again to get everything back. And at least it's not distracting by saying by null or whatever. region null, region whatever, because it can't do it when we're using the map as a filter. So that's an easier solution for right now than having all three of those region filter boxes on this visualization. So go ahead and save, and let's go to our new dashboard too. So on this new dashboard, I am going to use a horizontal container, only one container for this one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag the forecast sheet into it, and then the what if forecast sheet on the right side of it. I'm going to double click the handle on the what if forecast sheet so it selects the container. I'm going to go to the containers drop down arrow and choose distribute contents evenly. And then I'm going to reselect what if forecast. Instead of standard, I'm going to have it fit the height so it fills up that space. Now notice on the right, we have our legend for our forecast visualization. We have the actual and estimates per segment. And then we have this region filter, order date filter, and these filters are for the what if forecast visualization. We also have the measure names legend and our churn rate and new business growth. Now we know on the sheet that we put a caption that we had in between underneath churn rate and new business growth to explain to users how to use it. What we're going to do is we're going to go to worksheet, show caption, and notice the what if forecast chart kind of adjusted. If you scroll to the bottom, it puts that caption. We moved it on the sheet, but it attaches it to the chart that it's referring to. And we were on that chart when we created that caption. So it's at the bottom now. And what I'm going to do is, it's kind of in that. Yeah, we'll just leave it where it is for now, because it's in a container, so it's going to attach there. And I won't be able to make it float and move. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide that caption. Well, actually, let me go back to worksheet, show caption again. I am going to double click the caption, and I'm going to do Control AC to select the text and copy it. And then I am going to click OK and hide the caption. And so now at the bottom of your dashboard pane on the left, we're going to select text. And we're going to drag that text object all the way over to the right. So it's where all of the filters and everything is. And we're going to let it go. And we're going to do Control V in here to paste the text that we had in the caption. We're going to click OK. And now I'm going to do the drop down arrow next to that text object. Make sure it's floating. And I can move it anywhere. Now I'm going to resize it. It doesn't have to be that wide. Once I made it floating, it made it really wide, but I don't need it to be that wide or that tall. And then if I can grab it, I'll move it back over here. So we really want the users to have that information. And I'm actually going to double click that, do Control A to select all of the text. And I'm going to make it bold. And I'm going to make it like 10 point, just slightly larger, so it stands out just a little bit better. And we want to make sure that we're showing the dashboard title. So you might have to uncheck it and check it again to get it to show. And we're going to edit the title. It's taking the sheet name, which is great. We just want to center that title and add the word dashboard after the sheet name. You want to do a space there. And click OK. And now we are going to save and create one more dashboard sheet for this module. Let's go ahead and name this new dashboard Sales Performance. And we're not going to use a container here. We're just going to grab the performance sheet and drop it on there. And I'm going to see what it looks like if I try entire view. Nope. I'm going to put it back on standard. This one is pretty much done. This is all that we needed to do for this one. We just wanted this. We want to change the title though. So it says Performance Dashboard and it's centered and we're pretty good to go. So now I'm going to give you something to do on your own. Go back to your sales forecasting sheet and you're going to want to leave your parameters over on the right and that text, that floating text box, I got to move that down. It was overlapping. But you want to do something and you want to leave measure names next to this. Well, I guess you don't really have to do anything except this segment forecast indicator really kind of should be more on the left. If you want to spend some time making some things floating and moving them around, feel free to do so. And then you're going to save and close this file. So I've asked you to close that sample Superstore dashboard, and that was a mistake on my part. So I'm on the home page, and I'm going to just reopen that dashboard. We have a few more things, reopen that workbook. We have a few more things we need to cover in here. So let's go to our sales forecasting dashboard. And the one thing that I wanted to point out is we've been sizing things throughout. For this what if forecast, we sized it to fit the height. So we've used the standard fit width, fit height, and entire view sizing area multiple times throughout the course already. You've also seen how you can size floating objects by using the sizing handles on them. And so I'm actually going to move this down just a little bit. You know how to handle sizing objects at this point. The next thing that we need to cover is let's go to our overview dashboard. We are going to format some labels. This is another topic in this module. So what we're going to do is I'm going to right click on the monthly sales by segment viz. I'm going to right click on the consumer label and choose rotate label. So when I do that, it gives more space, and then I'll click on consumer again to deselect it. It gives more space for the area chart to show. And I'm going to have you do the same on the monthly sales by category visualization. And once that's done, just to keep it in the right order, I'm going to right click on consumer in the monthly sales by segment again, and I'm going to choose format. So it opens the format pane even when we're in a dashboard. And what I'd like to do is format the font there. And I'm going to change the font color. Actually, I'm not going to change. Yeah, I'm going to change the font color to white. And click away from it. It didn't change it. Okay, let's do the shading first. I'm going to go to more colors. And I'm going to pick like a green color for the shading. Now I'm going to click off of consumer. Oh, so the font did take. I was just still on it. So the font is white and it has green shading. Repeat that formatting on your monthly sales by category viz. And now we can go ahead and close the format panel on the left. And the other thing, this is not in the module at all or in any of the lessons, but I think it's kind of good to know. So on this overview dashboard, I'm going to scroll down. So I'm making sure I'm seeing the bottom of it. We have the captions showing on both of these charts, and I can leave those there. Those are fine. What I want to do here is show you how to use a navigation object. And so we have 3 dashboards. It would be lovely if we had an arrow that we can click on that would take us to the next dashboard, so on and so forth. So we're going to do that via a navigation object. And so on the left side, underneath your objects where we've been getting our containers, we're going to scroll down. And when you see the navigation object, you're going to click and hold. And I'm going to drag it all the way over to the right to the bottom of that container that's holding filters and stuff. And of course, it put it up top. So I'm going to grab its handle, drag it down to the bottom. It doesn't want to go. I have to make it floating. And then I can drag it down to the bottom. So then when I right click on it, it gives me the ability to edit the button. And that's what we want. So at the top, navigate to none. We're going to do the drop down. We're on the overview dashboard, and we want to navigate to sales forecasting dashboard. For our button style, we're going to use an image. And when you go to choose an image, it's going to take you into your Tableau repository, the shapes folder. There's an existing shapes folder in the Tableau, my Tableau repository. And in there, you can't really see the shapes. They're PNG files, but I know which ones we want. For the right arrow, we want the one that's called 1-3. So I'm going to double click 1-3. I'm going to choose a solid line border going around it. And for the background, I'm going to give it like the green color. For the tooltip, I'm going to just say go to sales forecasting. And I'm going to click OK. So now we have our green background button with a black border around it. It's a right pointing arrow. And when you hover over it, it says go to sales forecasting. And by default, it has their Alt click to navigate. So you have to hold down your Alt key and click on the button, and it takes you to this sales forecasting dashboard. Well, on here, let's grab our navigation object again, drag it over to the right, and then we're going to make it floating. We're going to drag it down to the bottom, and we're going to right click on it and edit the button again. We are going to use that same 1-3 PNG. This time, we're going to navigate to sales performance. We're using the same image, 1-3. We'll give it the same solid border, same background. I'm using that green color. And this one, the tooltip is going to say go to sales performance. And I'm going to click OK. So now I'm going to press Alt and click on that button, and it brings me to sales performance. Now on sales performance, I want to put a back button that will take us back to the overview dashboard. So you could put backwards or left pointing and right pointing arrows on each dashboard for navigate, but just for purposes of this video, we're only going to do one on each. So let's go back, go ahead and grab your object, drag it over, same thing, make it floating, move it down. We're going to use a different PNG for this one. We want the left arrow. I'm going to right click on it. Well, actually double click does work. It just has a hesitation. And I'm going to navigate here to, what's our first one? Overview. And it's going to be an image. This time we're going to choose 1-7, which is the left arrow. Going to do the same border, same background. And this one is going to be go to overview. and we're going to do OK. So now we have our left arrow, and when we test it, it takes us back to our overview one. So just something else you can do to navigate from one dashboard to another. Again, this is not part of the curriculum, but I thought you should know it. The last thing in this module that is part of our lesson plan is to create a dual axis chart. So for this one, we're going to do a new sheet, not a new dashboard. So why would you have a dual axis? Well, if your values of your measures are so disparate that you can barely see them on your axis, that's when you would want to have a dual axis. So we're going to build this visualization. We're going to use the order date field in columns, and we're going to drag sales to rows. We have our sales values, right? And we're showing our years at the bottom, and then your y-axis is showing your sales values, ranges from 0 to, it looks like maybe 120 million, something like that, maybe bigger. So yeah, we have like a little over 1 million for our highest thing. So 1,145,000, so on and so forth. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go click and hold our profit field, and we're going to drag it right into this sales chart. Now we want to do it so you'll see a dashed line on the right. When you see the dashed line on the right, you can let it go. And that creates a dual axis chart. So you can see on the right, the axis is for profit, and the numbers, profit only goes up to like 160 million, whereas this is going up to a lot more. The range of numbers is so disparate that it makes sense to have a dual axis for easier analysis. And so it happens to be the dual line chart because we dragged it in here, and you're seeing your dual axis. So we're going to name this sheet. We'll name it Sales and Profit Dual Axis, just so you'll have that as a reference. We're not going to use it on a dashboard, but what we are going to do is we're going to go ahead and change the colors of those measures. So I'm just going to go in and edit the colors here. I'm going to go back to my traffic light palette, and I always want my sales to be green. Profit, well, usually if I'm taking a loss, I'll go ahead and make profit like an orangey color and click OK. Now you can go ahead and save this file, and you can close it. And when you close it, you can go ahead and get rid of that tile, and we'll get ready for the next module. In Module 2, we use Superstore Basic Sales Details, and we ended up creating several different visualizations and 3 different dashboards. We learned about graphic sizing along the way. You saw a different way of filtering on a dashboard by using a visualization as a filter, so you don't have to have all of those filters for different visualizations visible on the dashboard. We learned how to format labels. We rotated some labels, which gave us more space for our viz. And we ended up by creating a dual axis chart, which is great when you have really disparate values that you're trying to plot. I'd like to thank everyone for viewing this course. Hopefully you've learned some good tips and techniques to use in Tableau. So by way of review, I'm going to just go over what we've covered module by module in here. We've started in Module 1 using a personal finance data set. And you learned how to use the Tableau data interpreter to get a head start on cleaning your data. We created a bunch of visualizations, and then we started creating dashboards, and you learned the difference between floating versus tiled objects on dashboards. You learned about the item hierarchy by accessing the Layout tab on dashboards, and you learned how to use horizontal and vertical containers. In Module 2, we used Superstore basic sales data, and I showed you how to access the Superstore's built-in data set and then be able to download the data so you get the full set. After that, we created a bunch of different sheets with visualizations on them. And you learned how to do graphic sizing on dashboards, how to use filters on dashboards. We also learned about formatting labels and creating dual axis visualization. When there's a huge disparity in scales between two measures, you might want to use the dual axis.